My name's Lorna Miller and I've been working as a cartoonist and artist for over 20 years. Since I was a very young child, I was interested in both kind of traditional forms of art and comics. I always got comics when I was a child. Portrait drawings of my friends at school, which they absolutely loved, and I also did caricatures of my teachers at school, which they absolutely didn't love. I studied fine art drawing and painting at art school. I think I was quite reactionary the whole time I was there. I became interested in comic art, mostly that was being put out in America at that time, because there was a huge number of people self-publishing, having complete control of their artwork. It seemed to me a way of producing work that was outside of the art system, and there was an awful lot of women that were producing really, really interesting work. One of my tutors said to me, beware of going into this cartoon stuff. So of course, as soon as he said that, I was like, well, wait, hey, this is what I'm going to really go for, you know. And so when I graduated from Glasgow School of Art, I just started self-publishing my own work, and that led to me being published by a small press publisher. And this was in the 90s. My work was kind of got out around the world, really. I was getting illustration work and getting a lot of attention for this trade paperback book that I put together, and that was called Witch. I wanted to entertain, and I just think the things that I was experiencing in my life went into my work, and that just happened to be political, because I was talking about being in a job where you're on low pay and you hate it, and all the kind of things that I was experiencing in my life at that time. You know, I was also kind of challenging gender roles. I was doing a lot of satires of the kind of boys and girls comics that had always existed. I think my work's quite dark. My family background's Lithuanian, but then I think I also have the humour, and I think that comes from the kind of Scottish culture, from the Irish culture, which is my kind of mum's side of the family. I did this around about the time of the Leaders' Debate, and I just thought it was great that we had Leanne Wood, Natalie Bennett and Nicola Sturgeon all on a platform debating with the guys. And what I noticed a lot on social media was people were saying they wiped the floor with the men. In particular, Nicola Sturgeon, I just think she came across as such a professional.
We share a desire to see the back of the Tories, but surely we don't want to replace the Tories with Tory light. We need to replace the Tories with something better.
I wanted to think about what's a traditional way that you think about women and the kind of work that they do, which is, you know, domestic work is something that women still do, and it's a very strong kind of image, the idea of cleaning up. I wanted it to be quite shocking. I wanted it to stand out, and, you know, I'm certainly not afraid of blood and guts. I think if anybody's gone through childbirth, you've experienced plenty of it for real, you know, so I wanted to have that as a really, really strong, powerful image. I'm not saying, you know, we're going to live in a world where women need to cut the heads off men and, you know, wipe the floor with them, but as an image, it just represents, I think, a lot of things that are maybe felt but aren't said, frustrations, annoyances. They've all got their own kind of unique style. And again, this is something that obviously the media pick up on and talk about more than possibly what they're actually doing and what they're actually saying. You know, it's about what shoes have they got on and things like that. So.
In the rebellious Republic of Lithuania in the Soviet Union, voters turned out in overwhelming numbers to defy Soviet President Gorbachev today and cast ballots for independence from Moscow.
The question on the ballot read simply, do you support the idea that Lithuania must be an independent democratic republic? And Lithuanian officials predict that at least 85% of the voters will answer with a resounding yes.
It was one of the first comics I made was about Lithuania, because I was actually in Lithuania at the time that they were fighting for their independence, because my family lived there. I was one of the few people from the West that was actually there at that time. There was a coup by the Soviets, so they stormed the country with tanks. You know, they killed people. The first thing they did was they went and they took over the TV tower.
Improvizuotos televizijos studijos į Lietuvos žmonės kreipėsi Vytautas Landsbergis.
Mėly žmonės, tikriausiai netenkame televizijos ir radio. Tai yra skaudus netekimas mūsų padėtyje ir mūsų kovoje, bet tai toli gražu ne viskas. Gali būti, kad jie šiandien to apsiribos, gali būti, kad kasdieną ims po kokį kitą objektą, tačiau Lietuva gyveno be televizijos, išliko, kovojo, išsikovojo nepriklausomybę tada, 18 ir išsikovos vėl.
When they went in with the tanks and took over the media, everybody was aware how serious a situation it was, because they knew that they had no voice whatsoever. They basically wanted me to be the spokesperson for the country. They were like, she's going back to the West, she needs to tell people what's going on here because we have got no way of letting the world know what is happening here. I mean, it's absolutely terrifying. It's terrifying to have such a lack of control over information like that, you know? So I felt a huge responsibility. And when I came back here, all I could think of was, I just need to tell this story, I just need to get this down on paper and get it into my book, which is what I did. You know, we were like, oh, we've not got enough oil. I mean, they had nothing like that. So if a country like Lithuania can become independent and not crumble into, you know, complete disarray, then why not anywhere? You know, it's a tiny wee country, and I've got a friend, Hastings actually, who was there from Lithuania, and I says to her, well, what's it like, you know, because all these years down the line, has it been good that you've got your independence? And she said, well, things are more expensive, but we can do what we want. And, you know, it just comes down to that. But to me, yeah, when I hear the argument of, oh, but it might not be so good, or it might all go horribly wrong, I think, well, I've kind of been there and lived that experience of people that were prepared to die from hunger strike just to be able to do what they want to do, and it's as simple as that. Obviously we can't pick up the pitchforks and just kind of like all stampede down to Westminster. So what I think is really positive is all that energy has continued, and I think the movement wasn't just about politicians. That was a really important point for me, that it was about people becoming involved with democracy. Now this is why I think even if Jeremy Corbyn doesn't necessarily understand or support exactly what was happening here in Scotland, he's another person that's talking about democracy and the need for it and pushing for that. And it's fun, you know, it's fun to go to a gig. I mean, see now, if I want to see my pals, I'm better going to like a march in the city centre, and I'm more likely to bump into my pals. I think that's great. I think it's good that it becomes like a normal part of life. And for me, especially the creative side, the stuff that Commonweal's doing, the exhibition of Scotland's Political Awakening. It's a real honour to be here with so many different interesting artists, and also to have cartoon work in amongst more kind of fine art. I was asked to do some work for a French anthology about World War I, and I wanted again to do something about women, because I think quite often stories of women in war is not really something that you hear about that often. I was very fortunate to hear about a talk that historian Leslie Orr was given about Helen Crawford. She was like a really amazing socialist, peace activist. Helen Crawford was working with Mary Barber, and there was also Agnes Dolan. It was a bigger movement, it was a socialist movement, people that were working together to really improve the lives of people, the working class people in Glasgow who were really being exploited at the time of the First World War. And they did incredible work because they did actually manage to get an act changed in Parliament, and this was at a time when women didn't even have the vote. So what they did was really quite incredible, you know. So with the referendum, I had just moved back to Scotland. I was completely energised by it, first of all, because I'd been in Hastings, which is one of the most deprived towns in England actually, and we had a Tory MP, Amber Rudd, who a lot of people will know a lot more about now since she's embarked on her bring back nuclear power stations and get rid of all the wind turbines and all the rest of it. The social housing situation was already in a very bad way down there. So yeah, as far as I could see, I came to Scotland and a lot of those things were working really well here. Education is great here. Again, it has its problems, but in comparison, I wished I had the time to have done all these stories about Hastings in England, because I could see it happening. I could see that all that awful stuff was going to be coming here. And my fear was it's going to get worse, but then I also thought, I think maybe it has to. I think maybe that's just a part of the process and you just have to kind of accept that, you know. And as awful as it is, and I'm a victim of that because I work in community development and we've not got the funding, so my job's finishing in December, I can't continue. So that's making it difficult for me to continue as an artist as well. I need to kind of start again and figure out what I'm going to do and how I'm going to support myself, you know. I would love to be a huge revolution. I hope that people just really, really loudly fight everything that's happening right now.
Keep on, people. Oh, keep on.